There's something about an INFJ that lingers. Not just in the usual, oh, they were nice kind of way, but in that deep, soul-printing way that stays with you for years, sometimes forever. You may not even realize it at first. Maybe they were quiet. Maybe they didn't demand attention. Maybe they didn't say much. But then, days or months later, you'll hear something or remember something. And there it is, that feeling again. What makes INFJs so hard to forget isn't about flashy charisma or bold declarations. It's about presence. The kind of presence that feels like they saw you, not just the version of you the world sees, but the version you keep hidden. When an INFJ locks eyes with you, it doesn't feel like small talk. It feels like they're asking, silently, who are you really? And the wild thing is, you might actually start telling them. Not because you plan to, but because something about their energy makes it feel safe. Like you're in a place where your walls can finally come down. And when they listen, they really listen. They're not waiting for their turn to talk. They're soaking in your words, your tone, your silences, your body language. Every little nuance you didn't even know you were revealing. INFJs have this sacred way of making you feel like you matter, like your story is important. And that kind of attention is rare. So rare, in fact, that when it's gone, it leaves an ache. Check out our INFJ Mastery course, an INFJ ebook. The links are in the description of this video. There's a mystery to them, too. INFJs rarely show all their cards. They can be warm, open, even affectionate, but underneath, there's always more. Layers you can sense, but can't quite reach. They might tell you pieces of themselves, little glimpses, but never the whole story. And you'll find yourself wanting to know more. Not because they're trying to be intriguing, but because everything they do share feels so thoughtful, so intentional. You can't help but wonder what else is hidden beneath that calm exterior. People often describe INFJs as old souls, and it's true. There's a depth to their energy that makes you feel like they've lived 100 lives. Like they've known pain, joy, loneliness, love, on levels you can't always put into words. And when they speak, there's often a softness to their voice, a wisdom in their tone that makes you want to lean in and listen. They don't just say what's on their mind. They say what cuts through the noise, what you needed to hear but didn't know until that moment. Then there's the way they love. INFJs don't love halfway. When they choose to let someone in, it's intentional. It's sacred. They love with their whole being, mind, body, and spirit. But they don't advertise it. They're not loud about it. They'll remember the little things you said in passing. They'll check in on the things you forgot you mentioned. They'll make you feel seen in ways no one else has. And the moment you experience that kind of love, even just once, it changes you. But it's not just the connection that makes them unforgettable. It's what happens after. Because INFJs, despite all their warmth and loyalty, have a line. A quiet, invisible line that, once crossed, changes everything. They may forgive. They may even stay for a while. But once they decide they're done, really done, they leave without noise. No explosions. No drama. Just silence. And that silence is deafening. Because when an INFJ walks away, they take their presence with them. And that presence is something you didn't fully realize you were depending on until it's gone. That's the thing. Most people don't know what they have in an INFJ until they lose it. Until the texts stop. Until the insight, the warmth, the gentle encouragement, all of it disappears. And suddenly, the world feels colder. A little more hollow. Because no one listens like they did. No one understands quite the same. No one loves with that quiet, soul-anchoring intensity. They're unforgettable because they give you a glimpse of something deeper, something real. In a world that often rewards noise and performance, INFJs move differently. They move with meaning. They speak with purpose. They connect with soul. There's this quiet magic in the way they carry themselves. You can be in a room full of people, surrounded by laughter, conversations, distractions, and yet, the moment an INFJ locks into your energy, it feels like the rest of the world blurs. You could be talking about the most random thing, music, a childhood memory, something you barely even mention, and suddenly, you feel seen. Not in the superficial, I hear you kind of way, but in that soul-level recognition that makes you think, wait, have we met before? They have this rare ability to see what's unspoken. They pick up on the sadness behind your smile, the hesitation in your voice, the story behind the story. And they won't call you out directly, not first, but they'll gently guide the conversation deeper, ask the right question at the right time, offer a sentence that hits way harder than it should. They don't just hear your words, they feel your intention. And when they speak back to you from that place, it's disarming in the best way. INFJs are mirrors, but not the kind that reflect your surface. They reflect your essence. They reflect the version of you that maybe even you forgot existed. And that's what haunts you when they're gone. Not the fact that they left, but the fact that no one has ever seen you the way they did. And then there's that aura they carry. It's hard to explain. It's like a calm beneath the chaos. Even when they're anxious or overthinking, which they often are internally, they still emit this grounded energy, this quiet strength. You can feel safe with them without needing to explain why. It's like sitting next to a fire. You don't have to touch it to feel its warmth. You just know it's there. They also have this poetic way of blending opposites. They're nurturing but intense, empathetic but private, deeply emotional but quietly analytical. It's this mix of softness and strength that makes people gravitate toward them, even if they don't understand why. They're the type of person you might call in a moment of crisis, because you know they won't just offer a cliché or a surface-level response. They'll listen, really listen, and they'll hold space for you in a way that makes the world feel less heavy. But they're not just there for the bad times. They're there for the small moments, the song you love, the quiet victories, the things no one else notices. They remember, not because they're trying to impress you, but because they genuinely care. That kind of care isn't something you come across often. When someone looks at you and truly sees you, and still chooses to stay, to love, to support, that's something that imprints on your spirit. Check out our INFJ Mastery course and INFJ ebook. The links are in the description of this video. And here's the part most people don't realize until it's too late. INFJs give so much of themselves silently. They pour into people with no expectation of return. But when they reach their limit, when they feel used, misunderstood, or emotionally exhausted, they withdraw. And when they leave, they take their entire presence with them, not out of spite, but out of self-preservation. And when that happens, it feels like a piece of your inner world suddenly goes quiet, like a song you love has stopped playing, and now you can't get it back. There's this strange ache that follows after an INFJ leaves your life, even if it ended quietly, even if it ended on good terms. It's not just about missing a person. It's about missing the experience of being deeply understood without having to explain yourself. Because that's what INFJs do. They understand you in a way that feels like they've lived inside your skin, like they've read the chapters of your life you haven't even written yet. And when that kind of presence disappears, the silence it leaves behind is deafening. You can meet dozens of people after them. People who are louder, funnier, easier to read. But they won't feel the same. They won't carry the quiet gravity the INFJ did. They won't look at you like they're seeing straight through the version of you show the world. And deep down, you'll start to realize no one looks at you like that anymore. What really stays with you is how safe you felt with them. Not in the I can trust you with my secrets kind of way, though that was part of it, but more in the I can exist here without performance kind of way. INFJs don't just allow you to be vulnerable. They draw it out of you. Not by prying, not by pushing, but by simply being so emotionally open and accepting that your own walls begin to collapse without a fight. It's rare to meet someone who makes you feel like your mess is still beautiful. INFJs do that. They sit with your sadness like it's sacred. They don't try to fix it unless you ask. They don't turn away from your broken pieces. They hold them like they matter. And long after they're gone, you'll remember the way they held space for the version of you that didn't have it all together. Because most people want your light. INFJs are one of the few who can sit with your shadows and not flinch. Even their absence feels different. It doesn't just leave a hole. It leaves a reflection, a mirror you can't quite escape. Because being around an INFJ doesn't just change how you see them. It changes how you see yourself. Their presence challenges you to be more honest, more intentional, more aware. And when that mirror is suddenly gone, you're left staring at yourself, wondering if anyone else will ever challenge you like that again. You never quite see it coming with an INFJ. They don't announce themselves, don't walk into your life with a bang. They slip in quietly, gently, with soft eyes and a presence that feels strangely familiar. At first, you might not even know what's happening. They're just different, calm, grounded, like someone who's been to the edge of their own mind and come back with answers no one else ever thought to look for. They don't try to impress you, and that's part of why you can't stop thinking about them later. They don't need to be anything. They just are, and that being leaves an impression. What makes INFJs unforgettable isn't about grand gestures or dramatic flair. It's the small moments, the way they remember the details no one else noticed, the way they ask how you're really doing, and then wait quietly until you're ready to tell the truth, the way their words stay with you, not because they were loud or poetic, but because they were true. And truth, when spoken with gentleness, hits differently. It echoes in your chest. It circles back in moments of doubt. It holds you long after they're gone. They don't need to be the center of attention. In fact, they often avoid it. But somehow, they become the center of conversations, of memories, of thoughts that come out of nowhere long after the fact. You'll be going about your day, maybe folding laundry or scrolling through your phone, and suddenly something reminds you of the way they looked at you that one time, or the way they sat in silence with you, and how that silence said more than most people's words ever do. INFJs don't demand space. They create it. Space for you to speak, to rest, to unravel. They don't just listen to your stories. They listen between your words, to the parts you weren't sure you could say out loud. And when they reflect those things back to you, with kindness and clarity, it's startling, because you realize they got it. They got you. Not the version you show to the world, but the messy, raw, soft, real version you're usually too scared to reveal. And once you've been seen like that, it's hard to forget the eyes that saw you. But it's more than that. INFJs awaken something in you. They pull you inward, toward your own truth. Not by force, but by contrast. Their inner world is so vivid, so intentional, so quietly intense, that it makes you examine your own. You start to notice where you've been shallow, where you've been hiding, where you've been afraid to go deeper. And even when they're not saying a word, they're inviting you to feel more, to ask more, to be more. It's like a spiritual nudge you didn't ask for, but somehow needed. What really breaks people is the aftermath, because INFJs don't leave loudly. They don't burn bridges or slam doors. They just fade, slowly, quietly, until one day you realize you haven't heard from them in weeks, and you check your messages, hoping for something, but it's just quiet. And in that quiet, you start to remember all the things you didn't fully appreciate. The safety, the insight, the way their presence made life feel more meaningful. Check out our INFJ Mastery course and INFJ ebook. The links are in the description of this video.